All right, we're back and we're going to do it again. We're doing the 5A regions right now. And we're going to start off with the Sonoran region. And once again, what we're doing is we are taking Max Prep's numbers from last year, their rankings, applying it to this upcoming season to kind of judge whether or not we feel that that Max Prep's rankings or their predictions is going to be high, low, or about the same, or whatever the case might be. So we're going to be doing it this time, and we're going to be doing, well, Sonoran, like I said, which is going to probably be the weaker of the two regions that we'll cover, but definitely going to be some interesting football for this region because a lot of competition, just like what we've been going over. A lot of similar teams, a lot of competition, definitely, which is going to be fun to do. So we're going to start off with Flowing Wells. They were ranked 167th last season. They're going to start off their season playing against Agua Fria at 157, Sunnyside, who is 85th, Amphi, who is 178, Sahuarita, which is 206. They're going to go at Barry Goldwater on a Thursday, who's ranked 88th. Then they got Ironwood Ridge at 155th, at Mountain View, who's ranked 90th. Then they got their bye, and then they'll be finishing up the season with Tucson High at 138, Nogales at 165, and Maricopa 149. Now, Max Preps with those rankings has got Flowing Wells ending their season at 2-8. So this is going to be an interesting thing because obviously there's a lot of teams in here, like I've discussed on some of the other ones. It's just coin flips. Mm-hmm. So
definitely.
Go ahead and say your 2 cents on it, what you think is going to happen here, possibly, if you know.
I'm actually going to go a little bit higher.
Okay.
On this team, I think games against Sahuarita and Amphi definitely have to. Those are 4A teams, so definitely got to pick up those games there. And then it should be an interesting game against Ironwood Ridge and I'd say Maricopa. Those are where I would give them 4 wins on this year. But everything else, like you said, is either going to be a coin flip or going to be some tough competition for them.
Okay, so I'll give them the two wins that I see Max Preps is pretty much giving them, which is Sahuarita and Amphi, like you had just mentioned. But I'm going to lean more towards will the Nogales game be an interesting one there. The Nogales and Maricopa, I think Tucson High's got a lot going on right now where they're going to probably be better this season. And I think Ironwood Ridge, they just had a hiccup. So I think where the extra wins might come for Flowing Wells or where their target is obviously in their region, but I think the goals might be on Nogales and Maricopa.
Okay. Sounds good. So you're going to go with about 3-4 wins around there?
You know, I'll give them like a 3-7 or, kind of season.
Okay.
And
Sounds
you know
good.
what? Why don't you hit the next one since we kind of you don't have it. We're sharing the 5As anyway, so get to know these teams.
All right, so let's move into Ironwood Ridge. Like you said, they're ranked 155. They're going to be opening up on the road at Seton Catholic, who's 129. At home against Buena, who's 103. At Maricopa, who's 180. Home against Douglas, who's 168. At Saguaro, who's 120, and then back-to-back home games against Flowing Wells, who's 167, and Tucson High, who's 138. Then after their bye, they're going to be on the road for the next 2 games at Nogales, who's 165, at Maricopa, who's 149, and then wrap up their season at home against Mountain View, who is ranked 90th. And Max Preps has them going 4-6 this year.
Yeah, and with that, what they're saying is that their wins should come by the hands of Empire. Looks like Douglas, Flowing Wells, and Nogales. Looks like the 4 wins that they're giving them. I would have to say, once again, here's where you're going to look at. Ironwood Ridge, if they bounce right back into the kind of the Ironwood Ridge of old, they could give Tucson High, obviously, a battle there. As well as Maricopa.
Okay.
So those could be 2 of the things that might put them over the 500 or at the 500 mark. I'm not going to say I'm not too upset with a 4-6, but I would say that they could probably squeeze a couple if they're firing on all cylinder kind of thing. They could probably get up over that or at least to the 500 mark.
And I think I had them about 5-5. Like you said, the 2 games for me are going to be that Flowing Wells and Nogales. It's it could go either way. And then I think, on my end with Maricopa, I think they're going to have, they didn't pick up any wins last year, and we'll kind of get into that as our next team. But I have them around 5-5 as well when it comes to Ironwood Ridge. And like you said, I think it was just one down year, and they're going to be coming back a little bit stronger than they have in the past. So.
Well, and since Maricopa was one of your teams, why don't you go ahead and go over their schedule as well?
Okay, so Maricopa comes into this year ranked 149th. They're going to open up at home for the first 2 games against McClintock, who's 123, against Trevor G. Brown, who's 114. And then they'll have 3 straight road games at Sahuarita, who's 206, at Casa Grande, who's 59, and at Mesquite, who's 109. Then coming off their bye, they'll have back-to-back home games against Nogales, who's 165, against Tucson, who's 138. And then they're at Mountain View, who's 90th, at home against Ironwood Ridge, who's 155, and wrapping things up at Flowing Wells, who's 167. And Max Preps has them also going 4-6.
Well, and once again, what you're going to see in this is a lot of 500, that 6-4, 4-6 kind of window, especially in the core of it. As we dwindle down to some of maybe the lower teams, such as what they predicted, maybe Flowing Wells or whatnot, you could see that 2-8. But even at that, we kind of disagreed. We thought there might be chances for them to reach into maybe that 4-6 or whatnot. But the wins for Maricopa that are coming to by Max Preps is Sahuarita, which I could see that. I think the other one here is Nogales. Then you have, obviously, it looks like Ironwood Ridge, which I might argue on that one to go against them. And also the Flowing Wells game. What I'm seeing here, a lot of it outside of actually Sahuarita, a lot of the battles are going to be region battles.
Yes.
You're going to have to try and get those wins in the region. They could easily start off their season 0-5. I could see that. But actually, no. I mean, sorry about that. But I'd have to say 1-4 because I think Sahuarita is the one they got.
And it could be an 0-5. The way I'm looking at it, I would say that they might pick up the win against Sahuarita, but at the same time, Maricopa is an undersized 5A school. They just had one of what would have been their starting quarterback, or at least battling for the starting position. He transferred over to Mountain Point, talking about Robert Knorr. So right now, if they go with the quarterback that was going to be in that battle, I mean, he only sits about 5'7", 5'8".
Wow.
Height-wise, and I think they have an undersized line. So it's going to be maybe a closer game than we might think against Sahuarita. But other than that, I think I had them going 3-7 when Lupi and I talked about it on our podcast.
Yeah, I could see that.
And so with that, it's actually a positive year for Maricopa in that regard, because for the last 2 years, I believe they've only picked up 1 win. Going 0-10
And once
year.
again, I think they're coming into a different market. We really don't know them down south. Also, with them coming down south, you're also getting a lot more peer kind of teams like we've been talking about. So this is a year for Maricopa to strike up something, at least get some positive momentum going for them. You know what? I'm going to ask you this at the end. We'll figure it out. But I'm going to ask you if a team or if 2 teams were to be removed from 5A and moved down to 4A, I would assume it's typically going to come from this region. Unfortunately, I believe this is when it comes to strength-wise and whatnot over the season, over the year or whatnot, these teams are ranked. I think if you add them up, this is actually the lowest ranked region in 5A. But I would be interested in which 2 teams you think would drop down to 4A if the season goes.
And you want me to answer that at the end?
We'll answer it on the end.
Okay.
I'm going to take Mountain View here. Mountain View comes in. They're probably my strong seed as they come in ranked 90th from last year. They're going to start their season at Gilbert versus at Gilbert. There were 61. Horizon, who is 28. Sunrise is 78. And then they got Marana at 51. They got their bye come in. Then they have Walden Grove at 75. Then they go into their region play, which is 167 with Flowing Wells. Nogales is ranked 165. Maricopa at 149, as we've been just discussed. And then at Tucson High at 138. And then finishing the year at Ironwood Ridge at 155. What's your angle on this one?
Being that looking at their first 5 games, that's going to be a tough stretch for them.
Hard one.
I'd say if they could pick up a win in those first 5 games, it might come against Sunrise Mountain or Walden Grove. Would be my guess there. And it's always a good rivalry matchup. From what I'm learning against Marana, it's always a pretty decent rivalry there. Yeah. As far as the gameplay goes, too, because like I said, if you think like Maricopa and Casa Grande, 2 teams that you are familiar with, as far as Casa Grande, Maricopa, not so much. It's always tends to be a blowout, when it comes to the 2 teams playing each other. But I mean, I'd say I'd have Mountain View at possibly a 5-5 at the lowest, but I could see them, depending on how that Sunrise Mountain and Walden Grove game go, could possibly see them maybe at a 7-3, on a good day. So I'm going to go right in the middle. I'm going to go 6-4.
I'm actually going to say I kind of like Max Preps here. I mean, the one thing that you do see is Mountain View actually has the strongest strength of schedule out of this region, and not by a little.
No, it's by a long shot.
By a long shot, they got the strongest one. I think when you come in and you're battling teams like Gilbert, Horizon, Sunrise Mountain, Marana, all that just to start. And this is a big thing that Matt Johnson does all the time. He tends to have a really strong non-region conference like games. And they just come in sometimes looking really defeated. Like people will be like, whatever. They're 0-4. And then they come in and they just destroy the region.
Right.
So I would say a lot of it's going to come on here. I'm going to say the 5-on-5. I mean, the 5-and-5 just because another thing, once again, I think with a schedule like that, you really got to worry about your strength. I mean, your health.
Yes, definitely.
So how are the kids standing up? Is there any injuries that kind of cripple any of the main key components? This is a typical Matt Johnson schedule. I love it because he always does go above and beyond what his players sometimes maybe are matched up to, but he gets them a good battle. I'm going with a 5-and-5.
Okay, I mean, and like they could possibly pull out a couple of those, especially coming off a bye and you get an extra week to prepare for Walden Grove. So definitely something that is going to be nice to see.
Definitely going to be an interesting one. My man's over here chiming.
I think that's you.
Oh, it's me? Somebody cares. Anyways, we got Nogales coming in. You know what? Go ahead and take Nogales. I'll take Tucson.
All right, sounds good. So Nogales, as we said, comes in at 165. They're going to be opening up against Pueblo, who's 126, at Casa Grande, who's 59. Home, the next 2 matchups against Rio Rico, who's 164, and Desert View, who's 86. Then they'll be traveling down to Sunnyside, who's 85. And coming off their bye, they're on the road for 2 games in a row at Maricopa, who's 149, at Mountain View, who's 90th. And then back-to-back home games against Ironwood Ridge, who's 155, and Flowing Wells, who's 167. Then wrap things up at Tucson, who's 138. And Max Preps has them finishing it off at 1-9 on the year.
This is going to be a tough one for me. I mean, I see that Max Preps got some at 1-9. The win coming to them by the hands of, it looks like, Flowing Wells. Flowing Wells is in there. Rio Rico's in there at 164. Depending, once again, who Ironwood Ridge is coming in, could be a conversation there as well as Maricopa, how they kind of fall in. Mm-hmm. There could be more than the 1-9. I'm not going to go too much higher than it. Unfortunately, with a new coach down there and everything like that, there could be some kind of issues and situations there as well. So I might go at high, maybe a 2-8. But I could be completely upset here, and this could be one of those teams to do it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you also take into consideration that game against Rio Rico. They're very closely matched up ranking wise.
That's the rival.
Yeah, and see, there you go. It's going to be a good game there. So I'm going to agree with you. I'll say 2-8, and depending on how some of those region games go, I might even say as high as 3-7.
Okay.
So just like I said, it's a really good region matchup. So it's going to be kind of like some of those 4A regions. It's going to be toss-ups everywhere.
Yeah, and then we roll right into Tucson High. Looks like Tucson High comes into the season ranked 138th. They're going to start off their season with South Mountain at 122. Then they got Marana at home, or actually they're at Marana, who's ranked 51. Then they got at Cienega at 73. Then they got Bueno 103. Catalina Foothills at 92. Then you got Ironwood Ridge at Ironwood Ridge at 155. Maricopa at Maricopa 149. At Flowing Wells 167. Mountain View 90th, like we were just discussing, as well as Nogales we just discussed at 165. Now Max Preps got Tucson High going 4-6, and what's your angle on that one?
I like it. Those first. It seems like this whole region, all their non-region games are going to be tough for them.
Right.
So depending on how they weather that storm. I'd say, some of the best chances that they might have is that first game against South Mountain.
Yeah.
We'll see how the Buena and Catalina Foothill games go. But I'm going to go, I'm going to say somewhere around 5-5 for Tucson.
It's just interesting how we keep saying, like, and these, I know people who are fans who are, they're dedicated to their teams and so on, are going to be sitting there going like, no way, no way, this 5-5 stuff. I agree with you. I think they're 5-5. I might even say slightly above that because I know some good things are going the direction for Tucson High with a new coaching staff over there. He at least has gotten his feet planted a lot sooner than the past two that had been over there coaching or whatnot. So I think that he's at least kind of got the engine firing on all cylinders, which is a good thing. Like you said, I think South Mountain could be the game of the non-region. Maybe Catalina Foothills could be an interesting game, depending on how much Tucson High's kind of bounced back into this and they've bought into it. Ironwood Ridge, I actually tell you the truth, other than Mountain View, I think Tucson High takes the rest of the region. I got Mountain View actually. Tucson sitting at my number 2 seed in the region. So I'm a fan of them. I think Mountain View obviously is the dominant one to beat, but Tucson High actually becomes my second favorite out of the region.
And I'm actually right along there with you. You've been speaking so highly about Tucson and what they got growing over there, and it's exciting too. One of the the biggest school in all of the Tucson city limits, but it's finally good to see those teams moving into the right direction. And so I would definitely agree with you. Mountain View 1, Tucson 2.
Right.
And to kind of wrap up your question from earlier, what would be the two teams I think that would benefit moving down to 4A? One of them is going to be obviously my team in Maricopa.
Okay.
I think that there, even though the city of Maricopa is growing, you have two other schools over there. You've had the successes of Sequoia Pathway. Now you got Desert Sunrise, which is going to take a lot of kids from both schools. And so I don't think that they're going to be able to compete at the level of the other 5A teams consistently enough. So I'd say Maricopa and then possibly Nogales. They would be another team that I think would benefit kind of moving down into the 4A and then maybe even getting put in that region with Rio Rico and Douglas and Empire and those type of teams and help them build up their program again, because to me, those are probably be the two weakest teams. I know Ironwood Ridge, a lot of people might look at them as what they were last year, but they are not a team that was consistently, down every single year.
Right. That was kind of like a hiccup kind of thing. And hopefully they're bouncing back. I don't know if that's the case. Obviously, we're going to have to find out this year. My two probably would be just off of our history here would be Flowing Wells and Nogales. I think they've just kind of been waiting their turn to move down as they come in, actually ranked even lower than near Maricopa. But once again, I think it would be interesting to see where Maricopa lies in this grouping. So will Maricopa actually come up stronger than the two teams like Flowing Wells and Nogales, or will they fall somewhere within that where
Right.
it could justify exactly what you're just saying, the moves? Either way, this is going to be an exciting region for these teams to actually play in. And a lot more of the 500 kind of consistencies that we've been seeing with these regions, the way they've been set up. So it's really interesting to me to see how this goes. I think there's going to be exciting games every week. They might not be the games that a lot of us are traditionally used to being those exciting games, but I'm telling you guys right now, this could be an exciting region to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be a competitive region for sure, and I'm really looking forward to it because you got a lot of teams that are waiting to kind of move up, and finally have that success that they're looking for. So it could be any team,
Yep. So we'll see. That was the 5A, actually the 5A Sonoran. So like amongst so many teams or the regions that we've been doing. But yeah, that's the 5A Sonoran wrap up there. So, and we will definitely be doing something here, getting back onto this. With the next one that we'll do is the 5A Southern. I know y'all are kind of waiting for that one. So we'll get right on that one next. See you guys soon.